Hey y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to another book review, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. If you hear some excitement in the background, that is just my 6 month old who is a morning person, so she gets very excited in the morning. So if you hear that, that's what that noise is. But getting into it, guys, this is a book review that I'm extremely excited to talk about, but also a little nervous in all honesty because there's just so much I want to talk about in this book review, but I can't really give anything away. So, this channel is spoiler free, so I'm going to do my best to give this review my all, but let's get into it, guys. So, this is a buddy read that I did with Jay over at Faceless Book Reviews. I had sent him a message saying, hey man, do you want to do another buddy read? And he said, yeah, sure, let's you pick it out again. The last one you did was pretty good. And I said, well, how about I give you like 4 or 5 books that I want to read, and you kind of let me know which one sounds good to you. So I'd sent him a few, and we landed on this one, and that is the Scott Harvath series by Brad Thor. Getting into it, we had also talked about how we're going to have this work and whatnot. We talked about reading so many chapters a day and just kind of texting back and forth, going over what we thought. And I think we kind of stuck to that a little bit. It was kind of loosey-goosey, in all honesty. It wasn't an exact amount of chapters. There were some days that he read more than me, and there were some days I read more than him. I think the first day we decided we were going to read like the first 4 chapters, and I ended up reading like the first 10 or 12 chapters. So it was a nice give and flow, give and take, if you will. But yeah, guys, what is the book about? That's what you're here, though, to hear. What is this book about? So, this book is called Lions of Lucerne. This is the first book in the Scott Harvath series. I think the series has like 20-something books in continuing. I think I could be mistaken, but I think it's like 20-something. But essentially, you have the main character, Scott Harvath, who is a Secret Service agent. For those of you who don't know what Secret Service agents do, they essentially are there to protect the president. They are ex-military people with highly trained skills that are designed and to protect the president, essentially. And so we have this, the book kind of give you an idea, and I don't think I'm ruining anything when I say this. So the book opens up where they are on a vacation of sorts, the president and his daughter, and some shenanigans happens and some stuff happens, and essentially they're trying to figure out, was this an accident, was this not, and essentially it comes down to Scott having to figure out what happened, what's going on, who's behind this, if anything happened, if it was planned, was it fate, what happened, why did this happen. And so this again, without trying to go too much into detail, I really enjoyed this book. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I was telling Jay that this surpassed the Sisters Brothers for me as far as being better of a book. They're 2 completely different subjects, but for a buddy read wise, and again, we've read 2 books so far, buddy read wise, and we are 2 for 2. I'm not gonna lie, I think Jay would even vouch for that. But for this being Brad Thor's first book, and again, I'm not going to give anything away. I really like his writing style. There's some chapters that are a little bit longer than others. There's some chapters that were 3 minutes. There were some that were I think the longest chapter might have been like 20 minutes is how long it took me to read. So on average, a decently long chapter. But it was extremely nice because there were times where I'd be tired in bed and be like, I want to read a little bit more, but I don't want to read a 20-minute chapter. And I would read it on my Kindle, and it'd be like, oh, 3 minutes to finish this chapter, which was great because I got to get a little bit further into the book. So I think the pacing of this book, that is a big thing that me and Jay talked about, was the pacing. It is nonstop in this book. Jay, in his review, and he did a great job, really good job reviewing this book. He talks about how he compares it to the Jack Reacher series, which I have not read, so I can't vouch for that. But what I will say, I've read the Dirk Pitt series, or some of them books, and I would put this up there with the Dirk Pitt, in all honesty, series. This is a series that so far, again, having read the first book, I would put this up there with Dirk Pitt, Walt Longmire, as far as, just how easily accessible the books are. What I mean by that is it's not anything that you have to focus 100% on. It's something you can sit down, you can enjoy, you can read it in the moment. There might be, I can honestly say, I don't think there was a time where I was like, I really don't want to pick up the book. No, I wanted to pick up the book. There was not a slog in the book by any means. Another thing that I will say, again, for this being Thor's first book that he wrote that I could tell, his writing is very, very good. It's not, what's the best way to put it? It's kind of like eating candy or popcorn as far as that. It's easy to digest. You're not, he describes some guns, gives them some names. So if you're not super familiar with, certain types of guns, you might have to Google them just to see, hey, this is what this gun looks like and whatnot. But he doesn't go super, super in depth as far as this gun is this and it fires this many rounds this far. Like he doesn't do that. So again, very, very minimal description of just the mechanics behind the guns and whatnot. So again, it's not anything you have to sit there and pay super, super close attention to. Now that being said, once you read that book, you're zoned in. There's nothing else around you matters. You just want to read the book. At least that's what it was like for me. Again, guys, I really, really enjoyed this series. I was thinking about it. I finished this book like 4 or 5 days ago, and I told Jay I want to sit on it for a few days and try to think about, if there was anything con-wise with this book. I could sit here all day without going into spoilers and talk about stuff. If I were to go into spoilers, details, I could probably talk for 2 days about this book. But I've been thinking about the last few days, and I cannot think of a con with this book. I really can't. The ending was awesome, in my opinion. So again, I can't think of any cons with this book. I honestly, and I'm trying to go away from like 4 or 5 star reviews. I want to say this was a 5-star review for me. In all honesty, this really was a great book. Highly, highly recommend this book. I enjoyed it so much. I actually went to my local library sale and picked up, I think, the second through like the 12th or 14th book. So I enjoyed it that much that I went and picked it up. So it's going to be like the Dirt Pit series where I'm going to continuously read this over time. But that leads me into the next thing that me and Jay talked about. This is going to be our ongoing buddy read for the foreseeable future. Whenever we want to read the book, we've already talked about it. We're like, yeah, if one of us wants to read it, pick it up, read it. Jay, I think, is going through the local library to get the books unless he comes across them at the local free little library. So I'm going to have to keep an eye out in the wild if I come across some of these and send them his way, just so that way we could probably get through the series a little quicker. But again, guys, this was a very, very enjoyable read. Again, 2 for 2 as far as the buddy reads goes. And I will also say, as far as communication for this buddy read, it definitely made it better in my opinion, because we were able to talk about stuff. Again, there'd be times that Jay would get a little bit further in the book than I would, or vice versa, and we'd be like, man, the next few chapters you're not going to be able to put down. And sure enough, then to be that even the next morning, wake up to it, hey, yeah, I couldn't put it down. I read the next 5 chapters after that. So again, very, very good book in my opinion. I don't want to sound like a broken record and keep repeating myself, but I really do think a lot of people would enjoy this. If you're hesitant to get into a very long series, in all honesty, I think you probably could pick up this book and read it as a standalone. In all honesty, I don't think, and I've been thinking about this the last couple of days, I really don't think you could, if you wanted to, you definitely can continue after this book. But if you want to read this as a one-off and see if you even enjoyed this series, I can honestly say that is very, very much possible with this book. And it seems like Brad Thor, his books are easily accessible as far as getting them, from what I could see. Your local used bookstore should have them. I went to CVS the other day to pick up some medication for my wife, and they had a couple paperback books there of this series. So again, seems to be easily accessible to get. And so, yeah, very, very much looking forward to continuing this series. I know that Jay has put in for the second book at his local library, so whenever he gets that, I'm ready to go. But yeah, guys, great read. Really, really much enjoyed it. It really got me in the mood. It's given me an itch that I need to scratch, so I might pick up the next Dirt Pig book, in all honesty, just because, again, I really enjoy this, but I also want to wait for to start the next book in the series. So we'll see. Like I said, though, this is definitely in the vein of a Dirk Pitt and a Longmire, as far as once I sit down, I just want to read it. I don't want to stop. But again, guys, like I said, highly, highly recommend this. Great buddy read, as per usual with Jay. There's a little bit of shenanigans, not a whole lot, but we definitely, like I said, are going to be continuing the series later on as soon as we're able to. But again, guys, as always, thank you for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.